We have seen a new AI hardware device go viral online after debuting at CES this year. It's called the Rabbit R1. It's built by a company also named Rabbit, and it's a standalone device with a small touchscreen, a camera, and a scroll wheel and button. That doesn't seem that impressive, but the real draw of this device, what's getting it a lot of buzz online, is how it uses artificial intelligence. The device's operating system is called Rabbit OS, and the company says it's based on an AI model that it's calling, and I think this is a term they devised on their own, called a large action model. The Verge describes this as a quote, sort of universal controller for apps. Now, what this means is that, like Alexa or Google Assistant, the Rabbit R1 device can be used to interact with and control all the apps that you use every day. You just tell it what you need, and it uses your apps to go do that. Now, what's novel about this is that you're also able to do that because Rabbit has trained the model on how to use existing apps on its own. The company even claims you'll be able to teach the device how to do new things with apps, so it can do them on its own moving forward. One hypothetical example that they give is you could theoretically teach it how to, say, remove watermarks in images using Photoshop by going through the process yourself, showing the model how to do it, and then it would learn how to execute those commands within the Photoshop app. Now, these details are pretty scant, but they were enough to send consumers into a frenzy. After introducing the Rabbit R1 at CES, the company pre-sold 10,000 units in a single day, which completely sold out its first production run. They've also, I believe, sold out another 10,000 run after that initial day. Now, it sounds like you can still start to place a pre-order for the device. It costs $199, but you're, of course, going to have to wait quite a while for it at this point, given how popular it is. So, Paul, first up, what did you think of this device initially when you saw it kind of start to get traction online?
So this kind of snowballed this week pretty fast for sure. So I saw it being buzzed about on whatever it was, Tuesday or Monday or Tuesday. I don't remember when it first came out. And the way they launched it was through like a keynote. It was like a 30-minute keynote, and it was produced pretty well. It was a little rough to get through. I did stop watching it after about like 18 minutes. It was just like, okay, this is pretty dry, and I kind of generally get the concept. It's a beautiful design, so I have to give them props. Like it's beautiful, like it's really cool, it's innovative, it's engineered well, it would appear. The website's awesome. I don't know who did their website, but like they're doing marketing right. They use some of that 30 million they've raised to do some legit design and user experience stuff. um that all being said, so my first tweet was, this company has 30 million in funding. It's a device designed to integrate AI agents and simplify access to them. If I'm accurately summarizing the product launch video, apparently better than your phone. Admire the effort, but has a humane AI pin feel to me, i.e. hardware innovation that will have very low adoption because you'll still want your phone and you won't want a second largely redundant device in your pocket. So the way I think about this is, I love hardware innovation. I love that people are trying things like, the humane pin we talked about on the show. I'm not a fan of, but I'm a fan of the effort. There's a company trying to do it with a necklace. Like, all these people are trying to build the next device, the next thing that we're going to wear or have with us that's going to record everything around us and invade people's privacy and all this stuff. Glasses is another one. So Allie Miller, who I mentioned earlier, she put up like, how many do you think this is going to sell? And it was like 1,000 to 10,000, 10,000 to 100,000, whatever. And I replied and said, like, you need a less than 1,000 option. And she's like, you're joking, right? And so I replied like, well, I'm half joking. Like, I think that a whole bunch of AI enthusiasts are going to buy it, which obviously happened. They did sell 20,000 in the first 48 or 72 hours. And so what I said to her was like, I don't think it's a viable product in the long run, that I may be completely wrong here, but like the pin, I think it's just going to be really innovative. But at the end of the day, Apple is going to do this on the phone and on the watch.
Mm.
I already have both with me. So Siri will be smart at some point. Like they will have AI agents built into the phone. So the case that I don't know, it was the CEO that did the presentation, but the case he made was basically like nobody wants to go in their phone and click a bunch of apps. But you're not going to have to. Like you're defining a problem that won't be a problem 10 months from now.
Mm.
So I don't know. I felt like it's really cool. A bunch of people are going to spend the $200 because for a lot of people, that's not a lot of money and it's a novelty and they're curious about it. But then they're going to get it and realize they have to connect it to all of their like accounts and apps. And then you're like, do I trust this company? All of a sudden starts kind of coming into the back of your mind of like, I don't really know who Rabbit is. And what am I giving them access to? And for their agents to do the thing they're promising that's going to like change my life and make me not maybe want to carry my phone around anymore. I have to trust them with access to all of these accounts. Otherwise, it's just not going to do what it promises to do.
Right.
So I think that like at the end of the day, it's interesting. It's a cool product. I mean, I may buy one at some point just to try it, just to like see it and to
Yeah.
make sure that my opinion of it is based on an actual experience and not like some bias that I may have about this stuff. But I just think that Apple's going to crush people like this. Like that they're just going to come out with these innovations and then it's just going to be like, yeah, that was fun for like 2 months. Remember that time everybody bought all those devices and but the other thing that I wonder about is how much of it was actually a scam, not the company itself, not Rabbit. But I
Mm.
saw their founder tweeted like the next day, no, stop this. People were buying these things in bulk and then reselling them online for twice the price.
Oh, wow.
So when you look at the marketplace, and this is how like we work, there's 10,000 available. There's a limited supply. You know the value is going to jump right away. So people go in and just buy. I don't know if you could buy 1,000 at a time. Like how many? I don't know how you could buy at a time.
Mm.
But then you get speculative buyers who just go buy this things that doesn't cost much, or they lose some money. They lose some money, but maybe they'll make 2, 3 times their money. And so I know it was happening because their founder screenshotted it happening.
Wow.
And so then you're like, well, was like this 20,000 sale really like legit? Like, is it really 20,000 people are going to use this thing? And then I saw another like AI guy that I follow, and he was like, the usage cost of this is going to be like a flat $200 per use because people are going to use it once and never touch the thing again. So it definitely created a lot of buzz. It was everywhere in the media. All the AI influencers were talking about it. And there are definitely people who think it's like the dumbest thing. And then there are people who like love the thing. And
Mm.
and now it'll be like, well, is it actually any good once you get it? But yeah, I don't know. It's cool. Like I like that we're innovating on devices. I just don't see it, and I'm happy to be wrong on this stuff. Like I don't know. Like I'm just kind of hypothesizing here, but again, I just look and think, are people really going to put a clunky square in their pocket like a Pokemon, like in Pokemon games? Because I think that was kind of like the inspiration was actually Pokemon, the device that
Mm.
they have the Pokédex on. My family plays Pokemon. I don't. I don't know what the thing's called. um, but I just don't see it. And so then it got me thinking back to like, but if the watch, like I already have an Apple Watch and I love it, and lots of people have Apple Watches, and I already have my phone. I just don't see myself doing that, having that other device, and it's definitely not replacing the iPhone.
So what do
What
you
did you
make?
think? I mean, did you have an opinion? Like, did you? What was your initial
Yeah,
reaction to it?
I'll be honest. I don't know if this is reflective of what other people are saying about it. I just tend to default towards the fact that I'm already overwhelmed with devices
Yeah,
and services and tools. So while I'm happy to add on ones that make sense, I don't personally think I would have too much of a need for an additional device to do this, especially to your point, if even if the shipping schedules are on time, we're still months out from even getting one of these. And I swear, I would imagine it might accelerate some of the plans Apple has to
yeah,
roll out these features. It's like, why would I need another device to regulate apps on a device designed to regulate apps? But I can
right.
see the argument in favor for it if you are savvy and forward thinking, kind of love having tons of devices. Maybe it makes sense for you.
Yeah, and I do think like all this being said, they may have a nice exit. They're obviously, they already
Yeah.
raised 30 million. They may raise a bunch more. So just because like there isn't, I don't think a market for this long term, like a consumer market outside of like AI enthusiasts and,
Yeah.
you know, the people who want to have every piece of tech that comes out. Um, I, it doesn't mean that companies, that Rabbit and other companies like them won't raise a bunch of money, won't have some exits. Maybe they've got some patents on the technology that Apple or somebody else likes, and they buy up the team in an acquihire and like get their patents. Like again, it's cool. This is what technology is supposed to be. People are supposed to be out on the frontier, trying things, doing things, taking some risks, building things that other people aren't willing to build. And
Yeah.
sometimes it just doesn't work. Like the humane people already laid off people. Their CTO left. Like,
Hmm.
so when we had the episode, I don't know, a couple months ago, and I was like, yeah, this pin's not going to fly. They already laid off like 10 or 20% of their workforce. Their CTO left. Like, it's going to happen. Like, you're going to shoot up. You're going to be on CNBC debuting products, be at CES on the stage. Everybody's going to love you. And then 3 months later, maybe it goes away, but or maybe you sell it for a few hundred million and move on and do the next thing. Like this is what tech is. So
Yep.
again, I'm an advocate of this kind of thing. I like that people are doing it. Doesn't mean I have to personally like it or think there's a market for it.
Yeah, surprisingly, despite what some people on the internet would have you believe, it's possible to not hate on this and also just say, hey, maybe
Just
it's
think it's
not
not
for
going to
me.
work. Like, yeah, and that's my thing. It's like I'm not hating on them at all. Like I love it. I think it's great. I
Yep.
just don't think it's going to work.
Yep. Now, let's talk for a second about obviously nobody really has their hands on this yet, but what do you make of the AI that's built into this and what they're saying it does, what it can do? That did seem somewhat interesting to me. And to your point of it getting perhaps acquired at some point, that could be an interesting
I don't
piece of IP that they
I
might
don't
have.
know. I mean, they talked about this large action model. My initial feeling was just like one slide, and they didn't spend a ton of time on it.
Hmm.
My initial reaction was like, okay, I don't understand. Like, you just gave a name to something that every research lab is working on. Like, what is different about yours? As far as I know, they haven't published any research papers that are any advancements in the pursuit of action transformers or anything like that. So I don't know it's anything other than marketing, that
Yeah.
they just came up with a slick looking slide and a name that may or may not stick to something everyone is doing, and including Apple. Like, there's no way Apple isn't building this stuff in
Mm.
apps, in the phone, in the hardware, in the chips that Apple's building. Like, they have all this stuff. And so that was my take, is like, okay, cool. Like, again, good marketing, well done. Um, I have no idea if you have any actual real innovation behind it other than a nice looking piece of hardware.
So as
My
we
guess is
wrap,
it's not going to work anywhere near like what they
mm,
showed in the demo.
right, right, right. Yeah, we definitely have to put it through its paces and
Yeah.
actually understand if it can do what they say it can do. So as we kind of like wrap this up before we dive into some rapid fire, just very, very quickly, I wanted to kind of zoom out and talk about the reason why stuff like Rabbit is happening, what people are actually trying to pursue and achieve here. And it really comes down, I think, to this idea of AI agents that we've talked about in the past and that are becoming increasingly important. So basically, very broadly, AI agents are AI systems that can act autonomously in certain ways. Can you walk through just some of the bigger picture idea here about why these companies are racing towards these types of autonomous systems, what that means for consumers, businesses?
Yeah, so we've talked about this in past episodes, and maybe we can pull a couple of links, but we talked about Andrej Karpathy, who's at OpenAI now. And back in like 2016, 17, he worked on something called World of Bits at OpenAI. Then he went off to Tesla and then came back to OpenAI. And it was all this concept of getting agents to take actions on our behalf. And so research labs have been working on this for probably north of a decade. And so if you think about language models right now, you go into ChatGPT or whatever it is, and you ask it for something. Like, I always like to use the example of an itinerary. I'm going on a trip. Like, what hotels should I consider? What restaurants should I go to? What sites should I see? And it'll give you an itinerary. Like, it'll build it out. You can ask it further prompts, like what would be good restaurants for families of four, like whatever. It can't then go do anything. Like, it can just give you words. Actions would say, okay, that looks great. Like, go ahead and book the flights for like a pre 10 a.m. flight for four of us. Use my frequent flyer code that's saved in United. Go ahead and get us a reservation at that restaurant at 7 o'clock the night we arrive. give me a rental car. Like you can just tell it and it'll go do things for you. So that is the idea of action. So the unlock here was once they, I don't know, solved is the right word, but once they made the breakthroughs in being able to build language models so that the agents, that the machines could understand better what the human was asking, that was sort of an obstacle that was preventing these agents from being able to take actions, as it was hard to have a conversation with the machine and it would understand what you were asking it. So the language model became kind of a breakthrough to get past the barrier. Why Andrej Karpathy went back to OpenAI is now that we had language models that have reasoning capabilities and in some beliefs have like a worldview and they've all these advancements. The belief is we can now make agents that take actions reality. So you have Adept has raised like $415 million in the pursuit of agents. Our friends at Hyperwrite have been building agents. OpenAI is doing it, Cohere is doing it, Google's doing it, Apple's doing it. Everyone is building agents. So it is the one, when people ask like, what does it look like in 2-3 years from now? All I say is we know agents are coming. Like there's only a certain number of things we know are going to happen. And agents has been one of those things for the last couple of years. And 2024, I think, is going to be our first ability to start experimenting or experiencing working agents. They don't work right now. They're very flawed. But I think that enough people, enough money is focused on this that we're probably by the end of this year going to see some pretty significant advancements in the ability for these things to do stuff for us. So in marketing and business, it could be like, send this email, like, find the list, do this, and then send it. And it can actually go do it. It can build the list. It can create the emails. And it just basically goes through like this process and does all these things. And the human's in the loop as much as you want the human in the loop.